Mike, you know, start us off with Davante Adams, or let's go Davante Adams, and then let's see what scorching take the Wolf has.
Well, we'll go with Tay here. Yeah, another guy that's being drafted pretty early that I'm kind of avoiding this year. Davante Adams' current ADP is 12th overall, 7th wide receiver off the board. And if you look at how he performed last year, finishing as the wide receiver 3, Adams looks like a value here at the 1-2 turn. And I mean, I'm not going to say I'm completely passed on him. Like if he slips like into the mid to late second round, yeah, sure, I would take him. But at his current price, I'm not super interested. Like I mentioned, finished as the wide receiver 3 on the year last year. But when you take a closer look, his season was kind of peculiar. And he had a season unlike he had ever had in his NFL career before. Last season, he heavily relied on deep ball and explosive plays to find his fantasy production. Last year, he was 2nd in deep targets, 3rd in air yards per targets, and he had 10 touchdowns that were 25 yards or longer. He has never had more than 3 touchdowns of this length across his previous 8 NFL seasons. So I think this was kind of an anomaly last year. I mean, he's never really done it to that degree, and to have 10 in one season, I think it's kind of insane. And these 10 plays accounted for a third of his fantasy points. 33% came off of just 10 plays. And I mean, you can't take it away from him. The plays still happen, but still, I just don't think that these kinds of plays are the least reproducible plays in all of football. Catching those bombs. I remember Jared Stidham threw him like a 70-yard touchdown. Like, I just don't see that happening again this year, especially with the new quarterback that we've got in Las Vegas, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I said earlier, Davante Adams heavily relied on his good buddy Derek Carr pushing the ball downfield to him, getting those deep targets, and racking up air yards. What does Jimmy Garoppolo not do? He does not push the ball downfield. Across his NFL career, Jimmy Garoppolo has never finished higher than 24th in air yards per attempt. And considering that, first, I'm not as high on this Las Vegas offense as everyone else is. Nobody's super high on them, but I'm lower than the majority of people. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I was going to say, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think I'm lower than consensus even. But, I with Jimmy not pushing the ball down the field, this offense potentially being a dumpster fire, I don't know. This price scares me, and this is his age 31 season. That drop off is gonna happen soon. I mean, you can't. It's still Davante Adams. Like, it's hard to make that argument. Like, he could easily still be A-okay, but I'd rather get off the ship earlier rather than later. And can all those 10 deep touchdowns just make everything seem like, not everything, but his insane performance last year seemed like a bit of an anomaly. I mean, I just don't think he can reproduce those deep scores, and I'll be avoiding him this year.
It's a compelling take for sure. Adams has earned, maybe this is more to a fault, the guy that you've had do it for you a couple years that you've won titles with, and you just can't let him go. He's earned for me. I'll believe the fall off when I see it, and I always get the be a year too early, get off the train, rather than being a year too late. I totally get that. Maybe you'll be a year too late with Adams, but after finishing as the wide receiver 1, 4, 1, 2, and 5 in PPR points per game the last 5 seasons, that track record to me is something I'll continue to buy where he's going. 30% or higher market share for 4 straight seasons. The guy just commands targets, whether they're deep, whether they're short. That's the one thing that I'll poke the little hole in there is, like, yes, a lot of it was deep last year. There's no doubt about it. 2,129 air yards. That was insane. I think he led the NFL with that, and it's by far his career high in that. I get that. It's not going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's not like he can't get it done in the short game, that he can't get it done after the catch. A lot of that is reliant with Aaron Rodgers on so much timing and chemistry, and I get that too. In fact, I actually have Garrett Wilson ahead of him, so I get that part of the argument as well. Like, if you're taking Adams, you're probably passing on Garrett Wilson, who now has his Aaron Rodgers, literally Aaron Rodgers with him, making those, and we saw in preseason week 3, those tight touchdown type of throws. I don't think those will be there with Jimmy Garoppolo, a conservative guy. So there's definitely room for concern. I am taking St. Brown. I'm taking Garrett Wilson ahead of him. So yeah, in a sense, I am kind of fading Adams, but I also have plenty of him too. If those two guys are gone and he's fallen to me in mid-round too, because I'm also taking Adams ahead of, and I guess this is just a nice little segue into my bust here, CeeDee Lamb. Again, it's tough to say because the guy is so damn good. I hate saying this for every pick. Love the player, but I just think he's really going to struggle to get to the 156 targets and 107 catches, wide receiver 4 in both metrics last year. I don't think we're going to get that volume this year. And as good as Lamb is, and he'll do great with whatever work he does end up seeing, I think this offense, one, is going to become significantly more run heavy. We've talked about it extensively as a boon case for Tony Pollard, that Brian Schottenheimer, their new offensive coordinator, loves to run the rock. I think that's going to be a downturn for everyone here other than Pollard. He's never, only once has he finished, Brian Schottenheimer, above the 17th in pass attempts in the NFL. And that high of his career was 13th. So it wasn't even like he boomed one year. It was great. He's the man responsible for never letting Russ cook. That whole movement about letting him get out was Brian Schottenheimer, was the murderer's row there. And I just think this offense will be significantly less explosive with Kellen Moore gone. I think everybody was stunned that you fire one of the bright young minds that's lighting up the scoreboard too much, according to Mike McCarthy. He says, I want to run the damn ball more. So one, just a run heavier offense, a smaller pie that shrinks a little bit. And then you add the fact that Brandon Cooks, who I do not think is cooked at all. I think he has plenty more years left. He's still, believe, 28, 29, got plenty of juice in those legs. I think he quit on his team last year, but should be much more motivated here in a contending team with Dallas. Michael Gallup's reportedly healthy and springy again. So a smaller pie, more mouths to feed. I think Lamb will be more than fine, but I'm not passing Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is often the guys that you have to choose between, CeeDee Lamb or them, even Davante Adams. So I have CeeDee Lamb a fringe first rounder right now. I have him at 18 overall, which means I really have not landed much of him. Maybe that kills me this year because he is such a damn good player, and him and Dak do have that rapport. But I just think the volume will not be there to sustain the numbers we got last year. So Lamb could be just as good as a player, but ultimately a drop into 110, 120 targets potentially. That would be a steep downturn in his production if that was. I have him projected for 130 targets too, which is pretty good. It's still a healthy amount, but with 130, that does ultimately bump him below some of those other late first, early second wide receivers, making him a quote unquote bust. I just don't think he's going to pay off that price tag as well as some of those other guys.
Yeah, I would say I have to disagree a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, we're arguing about like 5 to 6 slots in drafts, so it's really not that big of a difference. And in my opinion, I have St. Brown, Wilson, and Lamb all kind of clumped together. One day I might be higher on one, the next day higher on the other. They all kind of float around for me. But I really, if you're drafting at the back of the first round, I really don't think you can go wrong grabbing, like with those bookend picks, grabbing one or even two of those guys. They're all in the same range for me. And I think I'm pretty on par with where Lamb is getting drafted by everyone else. I have him in the same range. But I mean, like I said, we're kind of debating like 4 or 5, 6 slots here. So if you're missing out on Lamb and you're still getting one of those other guys like St. Brown and Wilson, I think you're just fine.
I think we're just essentially arguing because there's that tier of receivers, and they are all, again, they're all great. You're not ever going to say Davante Adams is bad. Yeah. It's just a matter of someone's going to be more right than others. So the bottom of that tier for me is Lamb. The bottom of that tier for you is Adams. We'll see how that plays out this year.
Yep.
They're both going to be good. Again, that's why we had that preface at the beginning. Like, we're not saying those guys aren't going to have good seasons, but one's going to be better than the other. Who's it going to be? We'll find out. I think there's good cases for both sides there.
I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, I don't disagree with much that either one of you is saying. You guys are talking about this tier of wide receivers. You're mentioning the same names. You're mentioning Lamb. You're mentioning Adams. You're mentioning Amon-Ra. You're mentioning Garrett Wilson. Call me crazy. I put Jalen Waddle in that tier as well. And I feel like I would prefer him to at least a couple of those guys.
Oof, I think you're a little crazy there, Truth. I think those guys that we're talking about are clear ones on their team, whereas Waddle moves us to that like Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, the really great number 2s and really good offenses, and Waddle's at the top of that tier for me. But to me, I have an alpha number 1, like those guys, and that's where Lamb kind of shifts down for me because I don't know that he's going to command quite the targets of the other guys ahead of him. But Waddle, to me, you move to that explosive number 2s and great offenses. I just see that as a separate tier myself. And I love Waddle. I'm not getting against him. But.
I mean, I feel like Waddle was the wide receiver 7 last year, maybe.
He was phenomenal. Yeah.
And that's with the, Tua being taken out on a stretcher multiple times. So I don't know. I feel like he belongs. I hear the distinction you're making, and I know we're talking about bust, and clearly none of us think Waddle is a bust. But I personally would put him maybe near the bottom, but I would put him in that same tier, even though I do see the distinction you're making between a wide receiver 2 on a team and a 1. I just think he's that good, and that offense is that potentially spectacular.
What's crazy about Waddle too, truth is, like, he saw 30, 40 less targets than all those guys we were talking about, and that's why I like the other guys better. I just think their volume share. But even on 116 targets, that's all he got. Like you said, he was an absolute monster. The wide receiver 7 on nobody did more. He was like the number 2 in terms of exceeding expectations on the volume he got. He was expected to be about a top 25 wide receiver, and he ended up finishing as the wide receiver 7. So somehow, if he maintains that efficiency, but then gets a bump to 140 targets like some of these other guys, I could see him breaking in. But to me, that would take a Tyreek Hill injury probably for him to fully get to that 140 to 150 target range. But yeah, I mean, nobody was more efficient than him last year on the work he got. It was such a great scheme. So I get what you're saying. Absolutely.
We disagree on occasion, and luckily this is on video, and we're going to be able to run it back here in 2 or 3 months and see which one.
Oh yeah, we will. We're definitely gonna have to run these. And I was telling Mike before, like, nobody will ever come and be like, "Wow, you really nailed that pick. Thanks so much, man." Every now and again you get that. We have some really good fans that do, and that's why I love the RSJ fans. But you will so much more often get the "look at this stupid idiot." Ha ha ha. We got a ton of that. We saw, I mean, remember, truth, you probably know the guy I'm getting at, the guy we call the bust and we're getting raked over the coals for, but we didn't end up being wrong, actually. Do you remember who that was?
What season are we talking about?
Last year. We were getting murdered after the first 2 weeks. Like, this
was it Lamar Jackson?
It was Lamar Jackson. Yes, exactly.
He was giving it to us for a couple weeks there, and people were coming out of the woodwork just calling us morons. And we ended up being totally vindicated. Do you remember? I mean, this shows how long we've been doing this together now. But my famous, I think Tyreek Hill's better than OBJ pick. There are people like just openly on YouTube and Twitter just being like, "You are an absolute dumbass," just ripping me to shreds. And I was completely vindicated. I don't remember any of the apology tweets or comments coming afterwards. Right?
No. Those will never follow up. Nobody
never. Business we're in.
No, that's the business. A thankless business here, but
and we love it.
That's what makes it fun. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh man. Well, let's rally off a couple more busts so people can tell us how dumb we are.
All right, this is the guy I've been most excited to talk about.
I can't wait.
This guy. All right, so first off, he is one of the victims of preseason hype. His ADP has been steadily climbing since he got on the field just a couple of weeks ago for his first snaps of the preseason. He's all the way up to 50th overall and the wide receiver 20th. I cannot wrap my head around this in the slightest. First, for the
people listening to the podcast, we're talking DJ Moore here, just to make sure.
Yeah, DJ Moore. Yep. So the main 2 reasons I am just so far out on DJ Moore are, first, the offensive situation as a whole, but more specifically, the volume that I expect him to see within this offense. So let's just talk about this Bears offense. Last season, Justin Fields, a shade under 22 attempts per game. Obviously, with the Bears trusting him more and some changes to the offense's philosophy with the addition of Moore, this number is going to increase. With a 15% increase, which I personally think is a little generous even, that translates to, on a 17-game pace, to 415 attempts for the entire year for Justin Fields. In his time in Carolina, Moore maintained a pretty good target share of somewhere in the range of 25%. I think he maxed out around 28%, but let's say a little conservative and say he has a 25% target share. That works out to 104 targets on the entire season, which is really not that many in the grand scheme of things. In the last 2 seasons, just 2 players have finished as a wide receiver 2 or better while getting fewer than 110 targets. That was last season Cooper Kupp. I don't really need to explain that. Left with early would have smashed if he had stayed healthy. Jerry Jeudy last season, who did this on the back of 7 touchdowns. And then in 2021, Tyler Lockett, who did it on the back of 8 touchdowns. Last season, Justin Fields threw for 17 touchdowns, I want to say. And DJ Moore has never had more than 7 career touchdowns. I don't think Fields finishes with much more than 25 touchdowns if he even gets there. And so I don't think he's going to be able to do it on the back of high touchdown numbers. He's going as the wide receiver 20. I don't really think he's going to really even approach that wide receiver 24 threshold. I think he finishes somewhere closer to the 30s. And then just like with this offense as a whole, last season, bottom 10 in both yards and points per game. It's just not great. And a lot of this is driven by, first, the bad receiving core, just not a great group of skill position last year. But also it's a terrible offensive line. They led the league in sack rate. Justin Fields was sacked on 15% of his dropbacks and scrambled on 10% more. That's 1 in 4 dropbacks. He's not even attempting a pass. What can't DJ Moore do if Justin Fields is not attempting a pass? Catch the ball and rack up fantasy points. Like, everything that's going on with this offense, I just don't see the path for him to pay off this wide receiver 2 price. Nobody's doing it with this volume, unless they're getting high touchdown numbers. Moore's never had more than 7 in a season. And people want to draw these comparisons to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown last year. Let me just keep it short and simple. It's just not the same thing, not even close. First, I think Jalen Hurts is an all-around more talented quarterback. A.J. Brown and DJ Moore are not the same player. Please do not make that comparison. A.J. Brown is, in my opinion, a much more talented receiver. They play the game differently. And Jalen Hurts benefited from the best offensive line in the league. Justin Fields has to deal with one of the worst. You got Dallas Goedert versus Cole Kmet, not the same story. Darnell Mooney versus Devonta Smith as the second option. I mean, just like the parallels that these people are trying to draw to paint the picture that we're going to see this Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown breakout. The parallels aren't there, and I think they're grabbing at straws and preseason hype videos, and I think everyone who drafts him is going to end up regretting it significantly.
He's the Wolves' 4th round Roto Street Journal mock draft pick.
And I laughed at him when it happened.
Oh, baby. Let me tell you why you're wrong. But no, I think they're all great, valid points.
Yeah, pretty good
honestly,
point.
I think they're all very, very solid points. I was remembering last preseason early, I was making the exact same case against A.J. Brown. Well, Jalen Hurts isn't that talented. They're going to be so run heavy. And ultimately, it's just there's not going to be enough aerial pie for him to break out. And then you just read the reports every day. And I agree with you, too. A.J. Brown is a different level than DJ Moore. I will not disagree at all about that. But you read the reports every single day. Peppered. It's A.J. Brown from Jalen Hurts again. It's all over the field. That's exactly what we're seeing every single day come out. It's not just – if I would agree with you, too, if it was just like, oh, yeah, 2 big play catches, everyone's overreacting to the fact that he has 2 catches and 106 yards and a touchdown, which one is it's kind of nice. I do like that. But 2, it's every single day you read the tweets. DJ Moore in the red zone, 3 touchdowns. Only guy that Justin Fields looked at. DJ Moore in the 2-minute drill racked up 5 catches, churning down the field. He is becoming the offensive, certainly the pass game, and maybe the offensive centerpiece to pair up with Justin Fields. That best friend narrative, I buy it. They hang out off the field. You want to feed your boy, and he's going to get fed. So I agree to some extent that A.J. Brown and DJ Moore, different level of receiver. The usage I don't think is going to be that far off. We had 3,700 yards for Jalen Hurts last year. I'm projecting right now Justin Fields to take a pretty big step because of these receiver upgrades to get to about 3,500. So, yes, not Jalen Hurts, but not overly far back. We only had 22 touchdowns last year from Jalen Hurts. I could see Justin Fields absolutely getting to 22 touchdowns, and we don't have a Devonta Smith here for that. That's where I think we can balance it out. Yes, A.J. Brown's so much better. Darnell Mooney versus Devonta Smith. I mean, come on. That's not even a question mark. So there is truly no one else. You brought up Dallas Goedert and Cole Kmet. Yes, Dallas Goedert is 10,000 times better than Cole Kmet. He is the only show in town in this passing game. And the offensive line, sure, it is a concern, but they invested that first-round pick. They invested a ton of money into it. And in the preseason, I love what I've seen from them. They protected him a little bit better, certainly, but also the way they're getting out into space. This is, yes, not the best offensive line, but they are actually very athletic, and they're drafting the screen game. You saw it with Khalil Herbert. You saw it then with DJ Moore's touchdown. They get into space really well, and they were laying people out. I really liked what I saw. It's one play, but I think this offensive line could definitely take a significant step forward. Never, of course, close to the Eagles' level of line, but I just think as the only show in town, even in a small aerial pie, I'm projecting him to command 28% of the targets, which equates right around 120, 130. which is just a little bit less than A.J. Brown did. So, yes, I don't think he's going to have an A.J. Brown season, but a high-end wide receiver, too, in round 4. I'm buying the best friend narrative. I'm buying him as the only show in town. And I really do think, yes, he's not A.J. Brown, but I think DJ Moore has just been waiting for the right opportunity to showcase that he's a true alpha. Whenever he has been used, he's only impressed. I am so excited to see what he does. And if it costs me a late 4th, which is where I got him in our league, I'm all for it. I absolutely love it. When he's creeping in early 4th, 3rd, 4th turn, that's when, yes, I can get your skepticism. I don't know if I can buy into a passing game weapon of this nature, but late 4th, mid 4th even, I'm all aboard. I love DJ Moore, the player. I think him and Fields have a special bond, and we're going to really see it play out this season.
Well, Mike, I know you're new here, but we do, and I feel like I'm just kind of echoing what I said the last player we went over. We do have this on video, and we do like to hold things over each other's heads.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is going to be a one we're revisiting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited.
We will. We're going to be talking DJ Moore. We're going to be talking Jalen Waddle. We're going to be talking about Davante Adams, a lot of these guys. And we've actually got somebody in the comments that just said DJ will not bust. So we'll see.
Hey, that's whoever's in the comments with me. Cheers to you. You know your stuff clearly.
Don't worry. I got it all written down. I'll be back here to tell you guys off in a couple months. Don't worry.
We're going to see you a lot sooner than that.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Final wide receiver busts. We had Amari Cooper, who was dethroned from the top bust when CeeDee Lamb made his way into the conversation, and also Michael Pittman. I'm just going to call these guys Jackson's guys because he's got both of them. So rattle it off, Wolf.
Yeah, I had to. After I saw Mike's picks, I was like, I guess I'm not being bold enough. So Cooper was my bolder take, and then I saw the guys Mike was listed, so I figured I had to give who do I think is the worst type of first round pick right now to match up with the fire. So I appreciate you pushing me in that sense. But yeah, I think Cooper going right around the same price as DJ Moore. I'll take DJ Moore all day, twice on Sundays over Amari Cooper, who just had a great season in terms of the final counting stats. But there was nobody more boom or bust than him. Just as when he was actually good last season was with Jacoby Brissett. For whatever reason, 45% of his games with Jacoby Brissett were a wide receiver 1 week. Just one of his weeks with Deshaun Watson was a wide receiver 1 week. So all the blow-ups were happening with Jacoby Brissett, and all the floors were happening with Jacoby Brissett too. 4.7, 25, 23, 1.9, 20, 10.4. And then you get to when he's actually playing with his quote-unquote franchise quarterback, 8, 6.2, 9.8, 13.2, 25.5. Were you actually using him after 4 straight busts? No way. And then maybe you trusted him for your championship after that big blow-up, and he goes for 7.1. So I did not like anything with this rapport. If you're expecting that Cooper is going to somehow maintain those numbers that were big with Brissett, then you're expecting Watson to take a big step forward. As my quarterback bust, clearly I'm not projecting that. And even if Watson does somehow get it better, Cooper was the only show in town last year. I love Elijah Moore. I think he'll be reborn in this offense and ideally be used the right way. Cedric Tillman's looked really good. DPJ still taking the top off the defense. This is a low-volume attack with now significantly more weapons. Never mind David Njoku's looking significantly better in year 4, whatever year he's in. He's looked apparently taking another step forward there. So a lot of mouths to feed for a boom-bust player already. I don't see him steadying out at all, and that's just not the type of receiver. In best ball, I can see it. But in season long, it's such a pain in the ass when you put these guys in and they keep fucking you, and then you go to take them out, and that's when they have their 25-point blow up. And I know we were fans of the Gabe Davises and the Mike Williams, but they also go 3-4 rounds later than Amari Cooper. So I don't want this profiler receiver. I think DJ Moore does profile as a guy that's just going to see significantly steadier volume at this same price range. So I think that's a guy you can rely on significantly more often, even in a lower volume pass attack. I want nothing to do with Amari Cooper in that range. And just to toss out Pittman real quick, I know he's one of the most common bust picks, but I had to put him in there too because I believe he's going to be a bust. 35 rookie QBs. If you haven't heard this stat from Hayden Winks, I got to just toss this one out there. Since 2010, 35 rookie QBs have attempted 300-plus pass attempts. Their top wide receiver has averaged in fantasy as the wide receiver 37. If you then cut that down to just the 8 mobile rookie QBs, that number 1 receiver finished falls all the way to wide receiver 46. And I don't think there's anybody that's more reliant on their legs and compared to their arm than Richardson. We just saw, only 55% of his passes in college were completed. He just went 6 for 17, almost a 33% completion rate the last time. I love Richardson. I still think he can get it done with his legs for himself fantasy-wise, but I do not want to trust any of these weapons other than maybe Alec Pierce. You can rope those bombs to him, and you get some booms there late. The price for him is $150 to undrafted. Michael Pittman's going right around 75 or so, around Mike Evans, around sometimes even Chris Godwin. To me, it just makes no sense given those stats with rookie QBs, with mobile rookie QBs, and now maybe the most mobile dependent rookie QB thrown to Michael Pittman. There's no way he's going to pay off the value that he's going at right
now.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just about that. When it comes to Amari Cooper, I tend not to agree as much. Just we talked about there, in my opinion, there's some better fantasy options than Watson. But when it comes to real football, I have a hard time seeing Watson going from one of the better quarterbacks in the league that we saw before he took his time off to being an absolute zero like we saw in his 6 starts last year. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. He was terrible last year. But before that, I mean, he was one of the league's best. So I just don't see him being that zero once again. And everything that they've done.
What makes you think he's going to rebound, though? I mean, based on what we've seen in training camp, what all the camp reports suggest, he's nothing special. Could he just be a mental midget that collapsed on himself and just not be good anymore? I could definitely see that.
Yeah, absolutely, that could be the case.
I think it's certainly possible. I don't think he rebounds to what he was, but it's not hard. It will not be hard at all to be better than he was last year. If he doesn't, he should be cut if he played. They're giving him $200 million guaranteed. That will be the worst signing in the history of the NFL if he plays where he played last year.
I think it's going to go down as the single worst signing. I do agree with you. There's really nowhere to go but up. I just don't know that he's going to go up that much higher. Certainly not enough to sustain multiple mouths. Maybe Cooper's the one mouth that gets fed, but I don't buy it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the Cleveland passing game is definitely something invest with caution. I think that's a good way to put it. But everything that this offense is doing is signaling that they want to be better and throw the ball more, both be better at throwing the ball and do it more. I mean, they extend Njoku, they bring in Elijah Moore, they've got Cooper there, they've got DPJ there, someone we talked about. But yeah, like I said, it just really goes back to I just don't see how it's worse than last season. So, but I agree, he's not one of my favorite options for fantasy, but I mean, it's just hard just going back and looking about how he performed in the past. He probably won't get back to that level, but the step up will. I'd have a hard time seeing him not take a step forward.
Who do you take out of Cooper versus DJ Moore? Are you definitely Cooper there?
Amari Cooper?
Yeah.
I smirked to myself when you said that you were taking Moore over Cooper.
In our draft, Cooper literally went to pick before Moore. The Wolf.
They're going right around each other. Yeah,
got Moore, and I guess he was happy about it.
We'll definitely. This will be the clip here. We'll come back and say Moore versus Cooper. We now have the debate there. We should get we've always talked about that truth, having a board of bets where we just we've done a couple in the past, but we never actually track it, truly track it. We got to do that.
We've had some disagreements just in the last 5-10 minutes. We've
had a lot of disagreements in the last 5 to 10 minutes. We definitely got to start getting a board going. After the show, we'll try to organize that and get something going.
I'll never forgive Amari Cooper. And again, I'm dating myself here because we've been doing this for so long. I got really high on Amari Cooper when he was with the Raiders briefly, and the Wolf basically bet me that Mike Evans would outperform Amari Cooper for the rest of the year. And I was like, you're on. And basically, as soon as I made that bet, Cooper didn't do anything else for the entire rest of the year.
And Evans smashed. I remember
Evans, I feel like he caught I feel like he had 3 touchdowns an hour after we had that.
Exactly. That week, he just shoved it right in your face.
So I've never cared for Cooper after that. I became a Michael Crabtree guy on the Raiders.
Oh boy.
Same player, different round.
He just never, but that goes to show Cooper really had, even with the Cowboys, in his best setup in Kellen Moore's aerial bonanza, he still was a pretty boom or bust player. And in a run heavier, ugly pie, assuming Watson's as bad as I expect him to be. I don't know. I just haven't really been a Cooper guy across his career, and I think this is one of his worst setups yet. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.